go. All right.
Complicated.
Yes. Timing is perfect.
Wow.
We've planned this. I think we've done it before. All right. Welcome back to the Switchcars podcast, affectionately and officially named Switchcast. Registered
Clever.
trademark.
Clever.
Clever? Yeah. Well, it was that or Cars Pod, so.
Either way.
Yeah. So, anyway, welcome back. Yes.
Welcome back.
So, Switchcars is a weekly live show where we take your calls and questions, and each week we will have a new co-host, guest, expert in-house, and often they will be people you have never heard of, which is kind of cool. Not necessarily
is a loose term.
Expert is a loose term, sure. Anyway, so we're all going to learn together from these guests. And tonight, my guest is Pete Jackson. Pete is the founder, owner, CEO, president, emeritus, chief cook and bottle washer of Pete's Custom Coach Building.
I also clean the bathroom.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you do. Not often.
No.
He is the founder of Pete's Custom Coach Building in Newbury, Ohio. It is a specialty car restoration shop. And should we just call you a body shop? Can we say no?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of offensive.
He's the father of 5 girls.
Yes.
Which is more of a handful, the 5 girls or your male employees?
That's a close
Don't
one.
answer that one yet. And he's also the owner of arguably the world's cheapest 2-car Porsche and Ferrari collection.
That is very true.
Very true.
Very
true. So Pete is going to be helping us out here. If you have detailing questions, painting questions about restorations, things like that, please feel free to type your question live on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching this, or you can call in. Our live on the air number is 216-294-4124, and you can talk to this guy. Most people would pay to talk to a guy with a shirt like that, but
Absolutely.
You can do it for free tonight because other people have paid for it, namely our wonderful sponsors, which we'll hear from later. Anyway, so I guess with that, we will just dive into the questions. Pete,
Sure.
unless you have something you want to say about yourself first by way of introduction. Not at all. Okay, good. Well, hopefully you have more to say later.
Go for it.
Anyway, so the most frequently asked question I get, being in the car business, is how did you get into that business? And because I'm not a people person, I guess that it's a hard question for me to answer. I bristle a little bit at the question because there's no recipe to get into it. I'm not exactly sure why people are asking it. I think they're just curious. They want to know my story, but I don't have a good answer for it, right? And it's kind of a long answer. However, people want to know that, and that was the most common question in various iterations we got about your line of work.
Okay.
Owning a restoration shop is how did you get into it? So tell us.
Yeah, no, I get the same thing. People ask me the same question. It's kind of a hard answer to come up with. I guess it goes back to when I started restoration stuff back when I was 13. I restored a car. I restored a 1966 Beetle, and I bought it probably when I was 12, and restored it, planning on using it as my first car, and I did that. So
how did you know how to restore it? Did you just go buy a can of Rust-Oleum or
basically
YouTube?
No, there was no YouTube when I was a young whippersnapper. So basically I dove in. So I enjoyed painting automotive cars. I knew a couple of people that did do that and asked them questions. But basically it was just go at it. I actually restored the car in my friend's veal barn with about 150 veal cows.
And
right next to the...
So when you got finished, and you fired it up. Did they look like a deer in the headlights?
They were long gone
Dang.
by the time we finished. But so that's one thing we did. But I was probably 15 by the time I finished it, and we painted it, took it apart, put it all back together. But that kind of got me into the restoration world. As I started driving that car, I met more and more people, and I met a guy that his name is Mike Amarino. I was probably 15 or 16 when I met him, and there was a body shop that only did Porsche 356 restorations in Chardon, Ohio, and
you'd already done one of those.
Basically. I started working on 356s when I was 16, 17 years old, and that kind of got me into Porsche land, which got me out of Volkswagen land.
Okay, so, well, it's a relative term, but was the Volkswagen restoration any good?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty decent. It got me my first job. It was kind of my, I pulled in, he gave me an interview, asked me what I did, and he asked me if I brought my car with me, and I showed him, so it got me in the door.
Okay,
so
that's pretty impressive. That's okay.
So that, as time moved on, I started getting jobs at various restoration shops after I worked a stint over at my first job. And I ended up landing into restoring Rolls-Royce Silver Ghosts. So like vintage 1910 cars. And that kind of got me into that whole scene. I really didn't do that much, but probably a couple years, 3 years, but I met more people within the industry, and this is all in Ohio, east side of Cleveland. There's a lot of car scene there, as in restoration stuff.
Right.
So that kind of pulled me through that whole ranks, and as I got better and older, I made more money, and I guess
When you got your driver's license.
Oh yeah, I got my driver's license. That was no problem. So
you're 15 at this time, but you're
right. Well,
at Pebble Beach.
No. At this time, I worked about 6 years in the Porsche shop, so that puts me up to like 23, 24. I got a job doing the Rolls Royces, which then kind of went back. And after about a year, maybe a year and a half, I went back to the Porsche stuff and started restoring Porsches again at the same shop, which then kind of got me into learning more about how to do things better as a restoration tech. So that put me at odds with my employer.
Because he didn't want you to do things better, or
not really. We always heard good enough, and that'll be fine. It kind of just that was where we went.
Good is the enemy of better.
Yeah, good is the exactly. So that's when I realized, when I think I was 25, I realized that I kind of capped myself out in the industry unless I wanted to move out of state.
Okay.
And at that point, I did not want to move out of state. So family and all that stuff. So I ended up starting my own restoration shop when I was 26 years old. And just kind of fell right into it.
Wow. Okay. There's a really good follow-up question that I didn't come up with. This is it's for and from Just the Tib on
Sounds made up.
Instagram. Hey man, I'm just calling it as I see it. When you're starting out, how do you find the cars to restore? There's actually two questions. And I guess, how would you find the clients, and how do you determine which cars are going to be profitable?
Well, first of all, I work for customers, so I don't have to worry about which cars to restore.
Okay, so how do you find the customers?
So with my business, I really don't have to find many customers. They find me. The best way
okay, fine. Now they do,
advertising.
But when you were 26 starting out, did they come find you?
When I was 26, I'm trying to remember. Man.
That was 5 or 6 girls ago?
Yeah, exactly. My first job, if you want to go back to that, ended up into Packard. So I thought I was going to, that's kind of where the coach building came from. I thought I was going to end up doing restoring Packards or American cars, like 30s, 40s sort of stuff. So I ended up working on a 1936 Packard 120, I think opera window coupe or something like that. So that kind of, I remember going to a Packard museum with my uncle and meeting some of the people that worked at the museum and them being very excited that they met somebody or a young guy that could do body work.
Right.
So
because
they just
the guys that could were all dying
off.
off.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So that's how I ended up with my first job was just kind of not really expecting that. So that was just a whim, really.
Okay.
So, but as things progressed, it became more and more as once I landed my first job, he brought me another customer, and it was total bootstrapping, word of mouth.
Okay. All right. How long did you work by yourself before you had help, or let's say reliable, consistent help?
Yeah, consistent help. That's the loose term, I guess.
No, joys of a business owner.
So, as I basically hired my first employee. Trying to remember who it was. Man, who was that? I don't know. I can't remember who was my first guy, but I knew that I needed someone in the building.
Okay.
To basically encourage me to work, because I'm not very self-motivated. So I needed someone that I could just say, hey, come in a couple days a week and just do some work. And I think I hired my friend, and he worked for me on I believe Thursdays and Fridays, and I think I was sharing him with another restoration shop at that time. So he would go work there for a couple days and come work for me for a couple days, and that lasted a good maybe 6-7 months, and then he moved on or needed a real job. I think that was the case. Need a real job, need health insurance. So that moved me on to another guy that my friend Jake. I ended up hiring him, but that was a phone call, and he was twirling pizza signs on the side of the road in Chardon, and I just called him out of the blue, and I didn't know who this guy was at all, so I just figured anyone who would twirl a pizza sign on the side of the road for a free pizza would come and probably sand paint. And I was like, so anyways, I called him. He said, as long as I could work on Mondays and Tuesdays, because the rest of the week I have a band that I'm playing in, and band is really important. So I was like, yeah, that works out fine. Mondays and Tuesdays, come on in. So he started working for me pretty consistently full time, $7.50 an hour.
That's brilliant on your part. And you just trained him how to do what you needed him to do.
I just trained him, and he's pretty. Once I told him that he works so hard to look like he's not working, that was kind of when we became good friends. So, because he would just work so hard to look like he was a bum, but he really wasn't.
Right.
Because he really did work hard behind the scenes.
Right.
On stuff. So.
I mean, he still does a little bit with the beard and his suits and things like that. But no, he has to work hard. That band is awesome.
But
so to the second part of the question, how do you determine as a business owner? I mean, obviously you had done body work before. You had worked in the industry. I don't know if you were doing estimates and things like that, or you knew the costs involved, but how did you figure all that out?
That was all just trial and error. And at the time it was 2007, I believe. So we were going right into that.
Boy.
Nobody's doing anything with money right now. So I fell into doing microcar restoration with Izettas, and I think I did a couple Izettas, some Messerschmitts. So it was kind of a trendy thing to do at the time, was microcars, and that kind of got me through 7, 8, and 9. And I met some really good customers that they had these microcars, but they also had big collections of other cars. So that got me in the door with those guys. So,
Sure.
But what was the question?
How did you determine which ones would be profitable?
Oh man, well, that goes back to one of my employers told me when I was restoring Volkswagens that I picked the wrong car, and that stuck with me. Just as he wasn't trying to be offensive, I took it offensively when he said it, but he picked Rolls Royces as the car he would become an expert on, and
because Rolls Royce owners are well heeled.
Yep.
And
they have money to spend on their cars and their hobby, and that kind of put me into
hold
Porsche.
on. Back it up.
What?
My mind's working slowly, but I had a great wordplay.
Oh no, here we go.
Because Rolls Royce owners are well heeled, and Volkswagen owners are heeled. Dang it! Fix it in post. Because Rolls Royce owners are well heeled, and Volkswagen owners are hell wheeled.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. I'll get there. This is why people don't do live podcasts, is because they have jokes and they sit around practicing them, and then
Constantly.
when it's in the audio download version of this,
that
will
all be wiped clean.
Seamless.
It will be
seamless.
awesome.
I will look like I'm really funny and quick witted.
But
Okay,
so as
where
in
were
like
we?
the right car to restore that, really there is no, as a profitability, I personally would never restore a car for profit. I just don't think there's profit in it. There's too much work involved. And if you want to get a car that's going to be valuable, you got to put down and buy a car.
Right.
That's
but you have
already
to make money
valuable.
as a business owner. How did you
Right.
figure out, hey, how do I not go broke doing this?
How do I not
and
go
did
broke?
you almost go broke
I was broke.
on a few
I was broke.
when you started?
Yeah, for probably a good, I'm going to say a good 8 to 10 years.
Okay.
My wife and I were extremely broke. So my wife was running a business also that didn't make much money either. So, we lived on mortgage and air. So that was it.
Okay. So
So-
what clicked after 8 years?
What clicked is
You ripped off a big client?
no.
or-
No, I figured out how to, or at least I think I did. At least seems to be going okay. But having enough employees in a building that you own or rent. So, how many employees per square foot do you have, and how many billable hours you can bill a week?
Right. Relative to their
relative
paid hours.
To their paid hours.
Right.
Once I figured that out and then had enough work coming in the door, that's when things started to click.
Did your
And-
wife help you with that? Was she instrumental?
In figuring that stuff out a little bit.
Just say
yes.
yes.
Oh,
Just say yes.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful. So,
Well, I'm curious, right? So part of the reason I ask, and this is not to insult any super skilled craftsman nor chef, but a lot of really, really talented people, mechanics, engineers, chefs, body men, whatever, want to take that talent and or a general discontent with their employer or situation and say, well, I'm great at this, I'm going to go start a business. But they're
Right.
not business people.
Right.
And more often than not, they need somebody, whether it's their wife or a partner or something like that, who understands the business and can run that aspect of it so they don't run themselves
Right.
into the ground. And I'm curious if that was a something over time you figured out, if you kind of had that knack for business as well and you just hadn't learned that skill, or if it was something that she was the one that was more business minded and kind of helped
Right.
you refine things.
So that goes back to, mentioned my wife had a business also during the same 10 years or 9 years that we started off. My wife started a retail store about 9 months before I started my shop. So she spent 10 years of her life running a business, and we were pretty separate at that point. And I spent the same amount of time, but we both finally figured out that we had to concentrate on one business.
Sure.
And my business seemed to be the most profitable at the time. And, we were having kids, and she needed to be with the kids, and it was just taking up so much time, both businesses, all the kids, and just rolling through that. So we kind of just said, we came together, said that one needs to go, that one, and shut it down, which was really hard to do after 10 years. And got through that and basically started concentrating on the restoration business and figuring out how to come up with systems and all that stuff. What works, what doesn't work. But my wife was very instrumental on coming up with, how to do things, and, forcing me to basically collect all my time and bill for it properly.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
'cause a lot of the time I was just saying, that should have took me that much time, and it really took me more time to do. So
Well, and that's one of the hardest things for business owners to do as well, is value their own time.
Right.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I really don't value my time very much. And
I value your time,
thank
Pete.
you.
I
Thank
do.
you.
That's why you're here.
Thank you.
I value it in bourbon. Question from Frank Komar. Never heard of that guy.
No,
but
not at all.
what was the hardest piece of any car you've had to restore?
That's an interesting question. Hardest piece. I restored a 1950, I believe, 9 Berkeley SE492, which is a tiny little sports car that looks like a Cobra, but it has a 3-cylinder Excelsior engine in it.
I think I've actually seen one of those.
And it had I want to call it a stator, but it wasn't really a stator. It's like a generator and a starter all in one, and I think it's like a dynamo, they call it in England. And that was an impossible piece to find, so we had to send it to England, which this piece of metal weighs like 75 pounds. And getting it to England, I sent it there. The guy looked at it, sent it back, and told me it was fixed, and it wasn't fixed. So I ended up fixing this thing myself and getting the car to work, sort of.
Okay.
So it was an interesting piece.
Stator.
Dynamo.
Dynamo. I've heard of a dynamo. Well, I was trying to set myself up for a joke. Stator.
Didn't work.
I hardly know her. Barely know her. Stator. Whatever. Anyway, fix that in post too. So you restore cars for a living.
I do.
Your job is making cars perfect. Wait, before this question. Commercial break. Hold on.
Oh, boy.
It's that time. Music. This podcast is brought to you by Boxcast. You are watching this show thanks to Boxcast. Boxcast is a live streaming company based in Cleveland, Ohio, and they serve broadcasters and viewers in more than 200 countries. Their founders launched Boxcast back in 2013 with one purpose: to make people part of the experience. If you're looking to live stream your podcast, church service, car show, sporting event, wedding, or even your Cannonball attempt, not recommended, Boxcast is an easy, flexible live streaming platform for organizations. It is so easy. We are doing this with a phone. Yes, so if you love what you see here, head over to switchcars.com/Boxcast for your free trial. If you're not getting a good quality stream, it's my producer's fault or our Wi-Fi or user error. but never Boxcast's fault. They do great work. Again, call in to the show 216-294-4124 if you want to ask Pete or myself a question. Really, Pete, because he's the guest of the day. Or post your questions in YouTube and in the comment flow of wherever you're watching it. We'll do our best to answer them live. So back to this question, which I started. Back to that question. Right. So you restore cars for a living. You make them perfect. But you drive a beater Ferrari 308 and
yes.
a Porsche 912 that if it was any crappier, it would have been built by Magnus Walker.
It's perfect.
How do you reconcile that? Is the old adage true that a painter's house is always peeling?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So it's not intentional, or do you secretly believe that cars are meant to be driven and not perfect and put in garages?
So the 912 goes back to, I've owned that car for a long time, and it disappeared for a while. Ended up buying it back from the guy that I sold it to. He ended up dying and ended up getting sold. But anyways, I ended up finding the car back and all that stuff and the general story of that. But so that car only should look like that.
Right.
Because
of the story.
Just because of the story, because that's what I drove when I was 17 years old, driving a Porsche 912, getting made fun of at Porsche events because it's a 912,
Now you can make fun of 944 and Boxster
exactly.
owners.
So
I have a long hood air-cooled car. I didn't see you at Luftgewalt.
Exactly. So it's just a 912. It's gray. It's a beater box, and
it's cool though.
It can go anywhere.
Yeah, it does.
And it goes. Yeah. So and you don't have to worry about it when it rains. It's just an ugly 912 that just mechanically sound and goes.
Okay. So would you have a perfectly restored car?
I question that. I don't know what I would do with a shiny car that I would have to take care of all the time. So I don't think so. I don't. I don't think I would enjoy having a perfectly restored car. I think that I would want to drive it, and it would end up becoming a driver very quickly.
Sure.
So, and then am I in it for value or not?
Right.
I really prefer to drive the cars.
Sure. Well, that's probably a release for you because you spend all your time making cars perfect, and then you go out and get in your car and
it just goes.
Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This question is in from Jerry Hattrick. He asked if you can fix his Mercedes that he ran into a tree.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. I guess the question is, depends how badly his Mercedes bends.
Right. Depends. Did he drive it into the tree or did I?
No, he did.
Oh, he did.
His Mercedes.
Okay.
When you hit a tree, it bends. His Mercedes bends.
Right. I thought he was blaming me for driving his Mercedes into a tree. I don't remember.
Next week, we'll have a better one. How much of your skill set / job could be considered detailing?
I don't do much detailing, as in someone brings me a car that someone else painted.
Right.
It's very rare. It does happen.
But what about the finishing the car? I mean, there's the prepping and the painting and all that. How much of that is like what people would consider detailing, polishing, wet sanding, buffing, whatever?
Yeah, no. After we paint a car, there's a lot of wet sanding and polishing. So it usually takes around 40 hours to wet sand and polish a car.
Okay.
And that entails wet sanding with like 1,000 grit, 1,500 to 2,000 grit sandpaper, and then going through the steps of polish. So 1, 2s, and 3s. So, but it happens every time we paint a car.
Okay. From Henry Nicholas Collins, on that note, when polishing, do you prime your pad or do you skip that step? Yeah, I know I always prime my pad.
I bet you do. I think what he's talking about is when you're polishing a car, do you put polish on the pad and then run it in to the car?
Matt does that.
Yeah. When the car is, when I wet sand and polish, the car's already in like 2,000 grit sandpaper, so it's kind of dull anyways. So I'll just squirt the compound onto the car and wipe it in with the polisher and then just start polishing. So it's not really that big of a deal that I work in a pad. Plus I'm using like a high-speed polisher with that is a rotary, not like a DA kind of polisher. So it's kind of different than just a detail pad.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense. Sort of. Not to me, but to
someone out there
actually does it.
Right.
We have an in-studio question from one of our live audience members.
Somewhere over there.
I think he's still live. I don't know. We're live. But
yeah.
This is a good question. What is the most interesting story you've uncovered about a car you restored?
I don't know about
in
story
3 minutes or less.
And story-wise, but I could tell you about we restore a lot of 80s Porsches, and we find a lot of
cocaine.
Cocaine.
Really?
Yeah. So hidden
I was
around.
joking.
No. Just seriously, little baggies. I've ran across that about 3 or 4 times, maybe 5. Just little baggies of cocaine that slid behind the dashboard, or you know. Yeah. So that's. I don't know if that answers the question, but
what do you
was
do
fun.
with it?
I flush it down the toilet. I mean, it's pretty old.
You should hide it in a different car.
We could do that. Yeah, just keep moving it around door panels, and maybe put it in
those
time.
Volkswagens. They'll go up in value
next time.
All right. The this podcast is also brought to you by Switchcars, a wonderfully reputable car dealership who also sold you your beater Ferrari 308.
Yeah.
Amazing. We are in the Switchcars studio here drinking Switchcars bourbon. Actually, no, we're drinking Tyler Sanders bourbon. Thank you.
Right.
The Switchcars question of the day, which wins a free T-shirt. Could be the one I'm wearing, flat in the curve. Yeah, get it flat in the curve. It could be keep your woman but switch cars, or just one of our Switchcars branded shirts. Anyway, the question from Super-ish Mario on Instagram. What is your biggest piece of advice for the younger generation getting into restoring and modifying classic vehicles?
My biggest advice would probably be talking to as many people as you possibly can that work in the industry. And if you're trying to get involved or get job to work in the industry, is to talk with these shops, let them know what you want to do, and just go intern. Give yourself, or ask them if you could intern for a month or 2 months, and just try to feel out the different skills and the different jobs that it takes to do restoration. So there's multiple layers of jobs within the same thing. Not everyone is good at everything. So finding out what part of the car or what part of the job you want to do is probably the best thing. So that would be my advice.
Okay. All right. Good one. Well, thank you, Super-ish Mario. Hopefully with some effort you'll become truly super. But you get a free T-shirt. And if the rest of you want one of our awesome T-shirts, you can go on shopswitchcars.com and use the code SWITCHCAST to get 10% off your entire order. So load them up. They make great Christmas presents, and they will definitely be there. I won't say definitely. We ship them U.S. Postal Service. They might be there before Christmas.
Maybe.
It's not an election year, so we'll be fine.
Yeah, that's true.
What project are you most proud of or gave you the most satisfaction?
satisfaction. Wow. We did a 1969 911S, and that car was a very nice 22,000 mile original car. Very very rusty because they're all rusty, but that car done, and when it went out the door, it was a perfect, nice original car that came out very well. Customer was great. It just, because the car was never touched before and all the parts were there, it was just a great project to do. Very simple, very organized project. So that one I would say was probably the best and most interesting thing. I mean, not necessarily the most interesting, but just a great project just because it went so seamlessly and so smooth. It was very nice to work on.
Gotcha. Did it win an award?
It never went to any shows.
And that didn't change how satisfied you were in the work?
No, it had nothing to do with it.
Do you think awards, so there's the whole Concours show tour, Pebble Beach and Amelia and stuff like that, and you and I have gone to those shows, and it can be fun, it can be grueling. Do you think awards validate good work, or are they purely subjective / political?
I think it can be both, as in a lot of the cars that are going to Pebble Beach are totally there for just ego. And,
sure,
I mean, it's all ego. So,
well, it's the arguably the greatest Concours in the world. And if you win that, you have the greatest car in the world that year. Right.
And, yeah, I mean, there's nothing like a Pebble Beach car. I mean, they're totally overdone and just perfect. That's the whole point. And those guys, they pay for it and they get exactly what they pay for. So it is what it is. It's just a different thing altogether, as in restoring a car. As in, if you go and restore a car factory original, it might not win Pebble Beach because it's not so perfect. So.
And I remember you showing me a car in your shop. Was it an 80s 911 that you did? No, it was a 60s 911 that you did to essentially factory specification. It wasn't over restored. And immediately I could tell, because it didn't stand out to me as being like brand spanking new, but it also looked brand new.
Right.
Like it looked like I was transported back in time. I don't know what the 60s were like, but it just looked like a car that had been kept in the wrapper.
Right. Yeah, that's
for 40 years.
Right, and that's a trick in itself, just making sure that you don't go a little bit, that knowing where to stop, knowing where that an original car would have stopped and said that needs to keep moving down the line. They're all factory produced cars, and they everyone thinks they're perfect, but in reality they weren't perfect. So
what demand is there for the over restored or / really perfect cars versus restored to original specification? Are people getting more into that preservation quality restoration, or does everybody just want a car that looks brand new to today's standards?
So in what I've been experiencing lately is more people wanting higher quality driver cars. They everyone tells me on the phone now is they don't want a perfect restored car. They don't whether they assume it's going to be twice as expensive or what, but their intentions are to drive the car when they're done. So if they get a rock chip or something, they don't want to feel super bad about it.
Sure.
So that's what I've been experiencing, is more people wanting to build a great driving car that's looks great. But in reality,
that's encouraging to me. It gives me hope for like the car community in general. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about that, because that's honestly what I would prefer to build, is really like, I mean, a lot of people, they come into the shop and they look and they go, oh, this is great show car stuff. And it's like, well, the nuts and bolts don't have the right stamping on top, in certain areas. We didn't go through doing all of that. But in the end, it's somewhere hidden on the bottom of a car.
Right.
And at a show, maybe it matters. But out in the real world, no one would ever know.
I think that's a different...
So,
I don't know. It combines two interests, though, right? Because
right.
I don't know if that's necessarily automotive passion, but it's automotive history passion.
Right.
And not to invalidate that, but
right.
It's just a different thing that people are after.
Right.
And it's not necessarily that you're so much excited about the car, but you're excited about the car and the history and preserving that originality or recreating it.
Right, exactly.
And
it just gets into a whole different...
just want to freaking drive it.
Just drive, yeah. Just go. Yeah.
What is the worst customer interaction you've ever had?
Wow.
Or give me like your top 3, because these are the best stories. Have you ever had to repaint a car, like start over from scratch?
I have proudly never had to repaint a whole car from scratch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to fire a client?
Yes, I've had to fire clients before.
What was the most satisfying client firing?
Most satisfying fire. I don't know if I had satisfying is the right word for me. It's always very difficult for me, because usually what it takes for you to get fired from my shop is just the constant, like, it's almost like a game, who's smarter than who. And if you don't want to trust my expertise, then you can, go somewhere else. There's other people that are experts, and there's other people that can do this job, and that's fine. But you need to find those other people. It's usually a customer that thinks their car's the best example of the mark or whatever it is, and they end up asking,
all Cobra owners.
Yeah, they end up asking for something that's unobtainable, and they don't quite understand that you're still doing a repair. No matter what you do, it's still going to be a repair, and you can make it as good as you can, and it'll be 99%, but there might be something left over, there might not be, but it's still a repair. And unless you strip a whole car down and repaint it, it's still on top of factory or someone else's work. So
sure,
that's
right.
It's
not going to have the
really
original scuffing,
the original scuffing, original,
yeah.
You can't.
Okay,
but
are there any individual ones in particular that stick out in your mind that you're like, man, I couldn't? I mean, yes, it's never a good thing to fire a client, but there are some that are just like, I am so glad that happened, and what a relief that they're gone.
The most recent one we've talked about, but most recent one that I can remember is there was a guy with a car, and it had a little paint chip in the deck lid, and it had some, it's a Carrera. So it's a whale tail, and it had a black mask around the vents, and we ended up fixing this little tiny chip, about, I don't know, 1/4 inch round, and we ended up painting the area, taking the deck lid off. And if anyone knows about those tails, they're kind of a pain to take apart, and do this whole thing. And he comes in and starts rubbing his hands onto the black masking, which is a raised area on the deck lid where the factory painted black, and they just masked it off with tape and sprayed it black, pulled the masking tape, and there's a raised spot where you can feel with your fingers that it was an extra layer of paint. And he came in and told me that was never there, and then I had to explain to him that this in fact was there.
Or if it wasn't there, somebody repainted it incorrectly before.
But yeah, it was there, and I remember that specifically being there. So after all this stuff, and I ended up kind of sanding the edge so it was minuscule, I guess. But after all this stuff, he comes in and he gets his bill, and it was maybe $100 more than and then we talked about, and he makes a big deal about that, and so I discount his bill $100. Maybe it was $200, but was insignificant, and I'm just trying to get this guy out of my door so I can get rid of him. And he then proceeds to ask me if I do service work on cars, and his car in particular, and I basically told him right there that we will never touch your car ever again, and he can take it somewhere else. So that was, it was very annoying. I don't like doing it at all.
Yeah.
But it's just
but
one
you
of those
have
things.
to, as a
But you
business
have to.
owner. You have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've said goodbye to a few,
Right.
and honestly, more often than not, the ones I fired weren't even clients. They were tire kickers.
Right, right.
I mean, I
They're
guess you don't
time
really
wasters.
have tire kickers in your
Well, we do.
line of
We
work
do.
so much, but
They, you get those guys that are just, trying to, how much does this cost? And they're nickel and diming, and,
Yeah.
Guys come in, bring a car in, wanting to know how much to fix it. And, your first sentence is like, this guy doesn't want to actually do this.
Mm-hmm.
He's already taken to 3 other shops, got prices, and I don't even know why he's here, getting a price from me. So,
Yeah. Okay, we have a question from the live stream. This is an easy question. Should be, I guess. Pete, what
Let's
is
see.
the restoration that you had the most fun on?
Oh, thought he was going to ask me how much a restoration costs.
$18,000.
18, yep.
Flat rate.
That's it.
Okay.
What was the most fun that
Yeah.
I've had restoring a car? Man, that probably goes back to working with a couple good friends on 356s and just having a blast in a body shop with 2 other guys that know what they're doing, and we just, singing along to songs and just having a blast, just sanding away and, making fun of each other and throwing stuff at each other. So
Were you singing along to Jake's polka band songs, or
not
just
at all? No. No. But that to me is more important than anything.
you can have her, I don't want her, she's too fat for me.
Right,
You can have
exactly.
her, I don't want her, she's Oh gosh. That's a song. I'm not making fun of.
Anything.
Yeah, got to apologize in advance for everything now. No, I don't. It's my channel. From Mackinac, my boyfriend is addicted to 944s.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
Better than some other things. How can I convince him to stop?
Wow. Okay.
Marry him?
Yeah, there you go. Oh man, 944s. That's
I don't
too
know.
bad.
You don't? You find a guy who's
Yeah.
addicted to 911s?
Yeah, yeah. It's maybe a better car. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's yeah.
I
Probably
don't
move
think
on.
you do.
That's probably a move on situation.
Or learn how to work on them.
Yeah.
You might have to just jump in with both feet and embrace it, and
Yeah.
learn how to set timing, because that's going to happen a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stock water pumps and
Yeah.
balance belts and rollers and all that. So yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of tension in that relationship. Oh my goodness, I can't believe
Wow.
that's the
you
first
just
time
did
I
it.
use that. You're going to have to strike a balance.
Wow.
I forgot that was there. It's been there all night. It's been 49 minutes before I used that.
That's pathetic.
It is. Oh gosh. Well, I don't know. It's just been so serious.
Yeah. Exactly.
We are nearing the end because I think I am out of questions.
Good.
And do you have anything before we hear from our last sponsor that you want to add, that you feel needs to be out there to the
Out
people
there
who
to the
want to know
world.
about restoration and the
Restoration.
world of owning your own restoration shop?
Yeah, owning your own restoration shop. Not really. Just if you want to get into restoration, the best thing I can tell you is, like I said before, is just find people and learn from other people. That's the best way.
Yeah.
With restoration, it's just there's people out there that know this stuff, want to, move it on to the next generation, and they exist. There's tons of them, and they don't know how to communicate that. But if you call them, if you talk to them, and tell them your anticipation or you want and desires and want to do this stuff, they'll ask you why. They'll tell you don't do it and all this stuff. But in fact, they would love to show you how.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to hear from our last sponsor, and then we're going to get to the portion of the show where we take calls. We've had hundreds of callers waiting on hold, but we just haven't had time to get to them. But we will do that after we hear from our next sponsor.
Oh, here we go.
Some bridge music there. Celebrity Machines. Celebrity Machines is a proud sponsor of Switchcast. Celebrity Machines offers more than 250 different screen-accurate license plates as they appeared in TVs, shows, and movies like Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, The Fast and the Furious, Breaking Bad, and so many more. Visit celebritymachines.com for more info on replica prop license plate memorabilia. They also make custom plates like this one to commemorate our Cannonball event. And you can use promo code SWITCHCAST on celebritymachines.com. Promo code SWITCHCAST for 25.39% off your order.
Wow.
That's a big discount.
Wow, that's
25.39%. I guess right now people are actually wishing we went slower on our Cannonball. But yes, you can get a big discount if you want plates. They have more than 250. So whatever movie or TV show or whatever, that you or your special person that you want to buy for Thanksgiving, Halloween, or Christmas gifts.
Nice.
These are great Christmas gifts. You could wrap them in a T-shirt too.
Oh, even
yes,
better.
Don't even have to get wrapping paper.
that's-
Buy a plate, buy a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Your car
Perfect.
guy
No
gift
wrapping.
giving is
Yeah,
done.
done.
Easy. Don't buy them friggin' Armor All
genius.
detailing products because they all have the stuff they want. Buy them a T-shirt, buy them a license plate. Easy done. If they don't like the T-shirt, they can use it as a detailing rag. Okay, so we're gonna go to our calls here, and we have a local call. Didn't say the name, but we'll take the call
risk
anyway.
it.
So how's it going, anonymous caller? You're on the air.
Hey, what's up, fellas? I'm doing great. How are you
Good.
guys
Doing well.
Good. What was your name? Hello?
He doesn't have a name.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh.
Oh, he's gone.
Oh, wait. No.
No?
Now we have information. This is Midlife Crisis Car calling about
Wow.
Justin. Hello, Midlife Crisis Car. What's your question about
what is
Justin?
going on? Well, I think maybe your host got the two things mixed up there. I'm no expert.
Oh, it
about,
could be
radio
me,
college
but
shows,
it's
anyway,
Donald Trump's
so
fault.
I'm gonna commit a cardinal sin of calling into a car show and admit first off that I'm not very much of a car guy. I know that most of them have four wheels. Usually, if they don't, it's a problem. Anyway, so here's what I'm calling about.
Or a
some guys
microcar.
reach a certain age and they have like a midlife crisis and they go buy some crazy motorcycle or they buy some, expensive sports car or whatever. Not me. I'm the guy who goes cruising down the street and sees the 1987 Woody station wagon and says,
Nice.
that's the car I want for my midlife crisis car. So
Okay.
the question is, what kind of car can I look for that says, I'm a 40-ish-year-old dad.
Mm-hmm.
I like goofy old cars that attract attention, but aren't going to, drain all my money away and are going to be somewhat reliable and not, break down on the side of the road.
Gotcha. Are you trying... are you married?
Yes, I am.
Are you trying to stay married?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
that
okay.
that definitely
Wow.
affects the
Yeah,
purchase
yeah,
decision.
absolutely.
Because there are some people who are not,
Right.
and they want a car to assist with that.
Do you have kids that you want to put in this car.
Right. Do you want to escape from your kids with this car,
or do you want to put them in?
Share in it.
So I'll tell you a short story. Actually, some of this station wagon thing, station thing that kind of sort of looked like a hearse, but like a racing stripe on it. It was awesome.
You wanted a station wagon thing with a racing stripe.
That's kind
it's
of like
kind
a
of a
hearse.
hearse for your mid. I don't know if we can help you.
Yeah. Wow.
You may be beyond help.
It was the kind that has the seat, the rear facing seat in the back, which I don't know about you, a kid. That was awesome. So I showed the picture to the kids, and they're like, "Oh, that's so cool!" So like, a car like that they would actually kind of geek out and like ride in would be really fun.
I have the perfect car for you. No, Arnie Toman has the perfect car for you. He is the world's fastest hearse.
Yeah. It
goes like 9 seconds in the quarter mile. You should just buy that. Yeah. No, honestly, you should probably continue the wagon thing because those are cool now. And you could just get like a hot rod one. So you can have the midlife crisis. I need attention. I'm a car guy. I'm going to go to a car show or do a burnout or whatever. Have a really loud exhaust, but still take your kids and they'll think it's sort of cool. You could go old school. You could go new school, like a Mercedes AMG wagon or something like that.
Sure.
An Audi RS wagon. Right. There's lots of. I mean, I guess those are really not. I'm
They're
screaming
not
for attention.
Not really vintage, though.
Sure.
Okay, well, give me a vintage. I'm screaming for attention and want everybody to know I'm going through midlife crisis, but my kids will still like it and my wife will still respect me. Car.
It's a narrow niche, isn't it?
A Jeep Wagoneer.
There you go.
Jeep Wagoneer with wood sides.
And Pete builds Jeep Wagoneers
I do.
that are. He takes a classic body and he puts them on a modern frame with a Hemi engine, modern electronics, everything like that. That actually might be the perfect car for Justin.
It might be.
We got to talk about this.
Everybody loves it. This guy takes it everywhere. It's like this pastel 70s green. It's beautiful, but it has Bluetooth and heated seats.
Right.
And ABS and all that, and he goes. We could park a Ferrari next to it. People go crazy over the Jeep,
over a Wagoneer,
and he drives it everywhere. He can take his kids, throw it in there, and he still gets that nostalgic feeling.
Yeah,
that might be it. Pete can build you one.
That might be it.
Awesome. I think you solved my quandary.
I did, and Pete can continue to solve it for the next 2 years, billing you monthly. Thank you for the call, Justin. We appreciate your question.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. We are going to go to Brandon from Akron. He is looking to open his own body shop and focus on classic and higher-end cars.
No, okay.
Okay, Brandon from Akron, you are on the line with Pete. I'm going to step out on this one.
Oh. How you doing, Brandon?
Yeah, guys, love the podcast.
Oh, thanks. Go ahead.
So I'm looking to open my own body shop, and focus more on the classics and higher end cars.
Okay.
But how do I make sure it's a sustainable market in this area before I jump head first?
Sustainable market. Yeah. Have you experience in doing, restoration work or that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I've been doing this since I was in high school, so I'm in my 9th year of doing body work.
Yeah, so you have experience, and unfortunately, like within getting work and like perceiving to do the work, it's nice to have your own car and show up at places with some of your work, so to get work. But as a sustainable market, I don't see any of this stuff going away anytime soon. One of my old employers told me a long time ago is as long as people have egos, there will be paint shops. So, and that's the truth. As long as people have egos, you'll always have work.
Oh, gosh.
So, people get their little dings in their cars and they have to have them fixed. Is it necessary? No, not at all. So I would say just go for it. I mean, that's you gotta jump off the cliff at one point. Now might be the time. 5 years from now might be the time, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah, and if you establish yourself for doing good work, it won't matter if there is a local market to sustain it,
right?
Because you'll draw work from all over.
Right.
So, do good work. And going back to what I was talking with Pete about earlier is, are you business minded, or do you have somebody in your corner to help you to that end? Because just because you have the desire to open one or the skills to work on cars doesn't necessarily mean you should, or it means you should, but you need some help in the business end along the way.
Right.
So that would be, I guess, my advice to make sure you don't, fail right off the bat when you have the capacity to succeed wildly, but you kind of get in your own way when you could easily have somebody, a business mentor in your corner to help you with that stuff that you're not used to.
Right.
That
I agree 100%.
I mean, I wish when I started out that I had a mentor for a couple years.
Absolutely.
That would have totally changed the scope and trajectory. Friggin' Michael Scott making up words here.
Nice. Propelled. It would have put you so far advanced, that you are now. So that's the thing, is like having someone in your corner that has been in business is great,
Right. Is that helpful, Brandon?
Absolutely. That's great information. Appreciate it, guys.
Yep.
Sure thing. Thanks for the call. All right, and we're going to go to Tom V. He wants to come on the air with Pete.
Oh,
man,
exciting.
Pete, you're a big
Tom
deal.
Tom Vale?
Tom, I don't know.
Wow.
Tom V, you're on the air with Pete, and I'm here too.
How you doing, Tom?
Wait, what's the other guy?
What's that?
Pete, who you with?
I'm with a guy named Doug from the Switchcars.
Oh. Well, I'm some guy that's having a midlife crisis, and I want to know what's cool to buy. What a weirdo.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, what would you like to know, Tom?
Buy a Porsche. If he's still listening, tell him to buy a Porsche Turbo, spend $100,000, freak his wife out, and everything will be okay.
Yeah. There you go.
A Porsche Turbo's too vanilla. Everybody has those.
Yeah. Well,
I like hot rod wagons.
Red turbo.
That really says I'm a car guy. I mean, honestly, a Corvette says like midlife crisis the most, but
that's true. Very true.
American midlife crisis, I guess. I don't know. Depends on how deep his pockets are.
Yeah, I didn't ask, but I don't ask people about their wardrobe on the air, but yeah.
Well, I get it. I don't know. You should ask Pete about that shirt he's wearing, though.
It's pretty nice.
Oh, we talked about it earlier.
Kind of looks like Magnum PI.
Well, that goes with the Ferrari, sir.
Did you drive your Ferrari tonight?
I did not drive my Ferrari tonight. No.
Bummer. It's a little cold out.
It's rainy.
All right, Tom, do you have a question for us, sir?
Is there a question?
Pete.
What's that?
I do. Pete, how did you have the insight to buy a Ferrari for $40,000 in today's market, or $30,000 or whatever it was?
That is a very good question. I want to know that question too.
I just that up on the Ferrari 308 market that I knew now was the right time.
How do other people do that?
I'll tell you.
How do
Ferrari Club of America is a great club to join.
Yeah.
Porsche Club, they don't send you a welcome to the club and an air freshener that you can put in an employee's car or something like that. They don't send you that shit. Porsche Club doesn't.
No,
the
Porsche
Ferrari
Club.
Well, and man, the Porsche Club, you got to hang out with those plebeians with the
944 people. They're just terrible.
Oh gosh,
man.
I've worked on a couple 944s,
fixed income.
And I really, really like them. But actually, I just took a job recently, and the guy that owns it told me, forget everything you know about 944s.
Yes.
Because it doesn't apply to 356s or anything like that.
Zero. Yeah. Zero.
Right.
I'm sure.
356s are even worse. They just are worth more.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Who in the hell would like to do a brake job on a 356?
Pete would.
I'll do it.
Pete would. All right, Tom.
I've got people.
Thank
for that.
you for the call. We appreciate you your being on air and your sense of humor. We're gonna wrap this show up here. Sorry to the rest of the 87 callers waiting on hold, but we are out of time.
Out of time.
So yes, hold on.
One more.
We are
out of time.
Out of time. Thank you, Celebrity Machines. So yes, we are going to wrap this up here. Another fix it and post moment here as I figure out what the heck I am doing. Yep, here we go. Vamp. Pete, can you vamp for me?
Vamp. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but sure.
Yeah, it's when you just start saying random things
stuff
about Porsches. Yep. Okay, well, I lost our outro music, so I'm just going to talk without music.
There you go.
You can put it in. Somebody just hum in the background. So anyway, so now that it's the end of the show, we're going to our props and flops. Our flop of the week is my personal pet peeve. I have been inundated with Instagram ads not from companies. I don't care. If you're a company trying to sell me something, fine. I expect that. They're from people. People who want to advertise their own personal car collections or their car or them at track days.
Interesting.
Yes. And they're buying ads. They're literally paying to be in front of my ads. Listen, you're not a pro racer. You're not a business. I don't care, and it's stupid to spend money trying to promote your hobby. Stop showing off and enjoy your stuff for what it is. You want to know how you know that people really don't care about your stuff? When you have to pay them to look at your stuff. Stop buying ads. You're not a business. The prop of the week is Alex Jones, who set the new motorcycle cannonball record last week. I have an immense respect for the guys that do this. They are freaking crazy. 32 hours and 52 minutes across the country in the crazy traffic we have right now.
Painful.
In a motorcycle.
Painful.
7 fuel stops.
Wow.
Props to that on a motorcycle. Some say he could have gone faster, but for the wind resistance from his enormous cargo bags.
Head? No. Okay. Sorry.
Pete,
I don't know.
Jackson, thank you for being my co-host guest today. Where can people find you on the internet? How can they follow your stuff, or how can a client get in touch with you?
Just look up Pete's Custom Coach Building.com. Google search Pete's Custom Coach Building. I'm on Instagram, Pete's Custom Coach Building.
Do you buy ads?
I do not buy ads.
Okay. All right. Neither do I. Okay, great. Well, I do when I'm trying to sell a car. Great. So if you're interested in having your Porsche, Ferrari, Alfa, whatever restored, contact Pete. Not Volkswagen. Sorry, not Volkswagen. So thank you again to Pete Jackson, our sponsors, Boxcast, Switchcars, Celebrity Machines, and Stephen Holm Woodworking for this incredible desk. Thank you to our producer and call screener, Ethan Huffenagel. Our bumper music would be provided by Emily and Ivory if I could figure out my dang computer. You can stream the full album. Yes, we have real albums too. You can stream the full album on Spotify or SoundCloud. Ironically, you can also watch this or listen to this podcast later on in audio format, also on Spotify and everywhere else you find your podcasts. Those will be available every Friday. So if you want to listen to it in your car or on the go, that's where you can do it. Thank you again for joining us for the 3rd episode of Switchcast.